There's a Hole in My Sidewalk is a poem written by Portia Nelson. Most people are living their life on autopilot. They keep repeating the same actions, expecting to get a different result, living a life of stagnation and no growth. This poem depicts the stages of transformation in a very simple and concise way. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am hopeless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Finally, I walk down another street. We can see this as an addict who walks home from work every day and falls into the beer store to buy a 6-pack, 12-pack, 2-4. He fell in. He got drunk. He lost himself. He felt hopeless. But he didn't think it was his fault. And it takes him forever to find his way out. He walks home from work again, passes the beer store, pretends like he doesn't realize what's happening, and he finds himself again, walking home from work, stopping into the beer store. Now he realizes it. He sees it, but he still goes in. He realizes now this is a habit. His eyes are wide open to it. He knows that it's his responsibility, and he gets out of there immediately. He walks home from work again. He passes by the beer store, but he doesn't go in. And finally, he just decides to take a different route home, where he doesn't even have to think about or look at or contemplate the beer store. We can also see this as a woman who's fallen for a man who abuses her, and she sees it as her fault. But eventually she gets out. And then she falls for another person who does the same thing to her. She doesn't see the same red flag as before. She can't believe it. She stays even longer this time because it's not her fault. But eventually she makes her way out until she does it again. And this time she sees it for what it is, and that it's a habit she's gotten herself into. A different type of addiction called codependency. And this opens her eyes, and now it doesn't take her long to leave. She finds herself meeting another man who represents this deep hole, and she manages to see it immediately so she can avoid it, go around it, not even be open to any interaction with this hole. And finally, she decides to travel down a different road. And maybe this one has no men, no holes. She knows she is responsible for the relationship she chooses, which are all holes in the sidewalk. She has chosen to walk a path where relationships with men are not on her path. Just like the man who avoided the streets that have beer stores, because he too once was addicted to that. And just like any addict, you must abstain. This is why abstaining from relationships sounds absurd. But I must tell you that it is no different than an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. It messes up your brain chemistry. It's a depressant. It takes you on a high and leaves you with a crash. It's an awful hangover. You regret your actions, and you compromise your soul time after time after time after time again. The real lone wolf is an ex-addict in one way or another. They cannot go down the paths that everyone else travels down because they will fall victim to the holes they are prone to land themselves in. It's just how it goes. I didn't make the rules. But this is the lesson the lone wolf has to come to realize, as harsh as it sounds. Know that the opposite of addiction is connection. So the connection you have to find is the one from within. And that is the road you choose. That is the street you finally start to walk down. You choose you. You stop walking the streets that lead to your addictions, and instead you follow the path that leads back to yourself.